Sure.
All right. I'll give it one quick second. I'm going to double check on my end here, make sure we're good to go. Cool. Well, thank you so much again, Mike, for hopping in. I'm very excited to connect today. I'll keep it quick on my end. Obviously, you guys, I'm RV, founder of Elite Talent. We help SaaS companies hire top tier pre-sales and post-sales talent like sales engineers to solutions architect, CSMs, and so much more. And today I'm hosting a LinkedIn Live where I chat with Mike over here, which is a published author, has been in the pre-sales world for a long time. And he has a ton of knowledge to sell. So I'm actually share. So I'm actually very, very excited to have you on here. We're going to touch on some really different and cool topics. And of course, I want to dive a little bit deeper into your book as well. So welcome and thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks so much, RV. It's a pleasure to be here. As RV said, I'm Mike McDowell. I am the author of the book Demotainment right here. You can grab that on Amazon. It's the art of delivering demos that engage, inspire, and drive results. I've been doing pre-sales for about 5 years now, but it's on the back of a long career on the customer side, which actually is almost like training for pre-sales. Essentially, yeah. I've been in charge of a lot of contracts and seen a lot of demos in my day. So it's really exciting to be here. We were just talking about kids before we went live. Yes. And my kids joke about how I will go up and talk to any stranger. Like I just do that. So having someone reach out to me and want to talk to me is like, that's the best thing ever. It's great. So I'm super happy to be here. And for anyone who's in the audience, if you have comments, questions, I think there's chat capabilities. Feel free to put things in and we'll try to, I'm sure RV will pick up on them or I'll just talk about them as we go. But this is super exciting. I'm really happy to be here.
I'm excited too. And it's funny you said that. So growing up, kind of off topic here, but I've been like the shyest kid, like growing up, don't want to talk to strangers or just, sales or anything like that. And my dad always forced me, he was like, just pick up the phone and call people. And I was like, no, like that's so cringe. And he's like, you got to talk to people. So it's just funny that you said that. But yeah.
Well, we have that in common actually, RV, because I actually used to be super shy as well. My wife doesn't believe it, but I use the expression cripplingly shy. Like I was always really good talking to adults when I was a kid, but I was never good talking to other kids. And then I was an exchange student in my teen. I spent a year abroad and that really opened me up. So I got a lot better after that.
Yeah, I agree. He kind of did the same thing with me once I went to college. He was like, you're on your own now, so you're gonna have to figure it out to talk to people. So awesome. Well, I want to take you back a little bit further into like how you got into this space to begin with, and how you went. Oh, can you hear me? Am I back?
Yep, I can hear you. Yep, all good. Yeah, you're back.
All right, awesome.
It's all perfect now.
So yeah, I was just asking, take us back a little bit into your experience, how you even started in pre-sales to begin with.
Well, the funny thing is, and I highly recommend this approach for anyone who's thinking about getting into pre-sales. Worked with, is it? I think I keep losing. Okay. People kept telling me that, you should really be. People keep telling me, oh, you should really consider going into sales. And I was like, sales? I don't know about that. That sounds really quota things. What would I do?
Yeah, it's kind of coming in and out, Mike, a little bit. I'm not sure if it's my connection or yours in this case. Not sure if I'm frozen on your end. Let's see.
Okay, there we go. All
There
right.
you
I apologize for that. My internet did go out this morning, so it's
go.
back, and I switched back to my 5G network. All right.
You're good.
Apologies for
If
that. So let
it
me start
happens
that
again,
answer
we
over.
can, take it offline, and then I'll probably just end
No,
up
no,
doing.
no. We should be good now. Let me
Yeah.
start that answer again. So
Okay.
I've been in corporate for a long time, and people kept saying to me, you should really consider going into sales because I'm a talker, And so it seems to be the place for us, either on stage or, in
Yeah.
sales. And I originally wanted to be on stage. I did theater when I was younger and wanted to be an actor, but I knew how to make websites in the mid 90s. So I went to that instead. But I'd been a customer of the company User Testing where I work now. It's the world's leading experience research platform. I'd been a customer of that company, and I found myself looking for a new opportunity at the end of 2020, so during the pandemic. And I happened to see this job posted for solution consultant. And I thought, I never heard that term before. People had told me about pre-sales engineer, like I knew that term. And I thought, all right, well, I love solutioning. Like that's what I love to do. And consulting is something I'd been trying to get into. So let me just reach out to my old sales rep at User Testing and see if he thinks I'd be good for it. So I sent this guy, Zach Toy, he'd been my sales. I hadn't been his customer for like 4 years, but I never lost touch with him because I loved the product, and it wasn't my decision not to be a customer anymore. It was a new VP, you pick your battles. And I said, hey, do you think I'd be good for this role? Because it looked like a good fit. And he was just like, give me your resume immediately. And I basically started almost 2 weeks later at the company.
Oh,
So
wow. Yeah.
it was really great. So I already knew the product. So the learning curve and the onboarding was really easy. And it really just came down to honing my messaging about how I pitched the product. I didn't really have to fumble around with, I don't know the industry that we're selling to. I don't understand, the nuances of the product. And it's been years since I'd used it, but I knew the gist. And, I'd done a lot of the work that the people that we were selling to. So I'd sat behind a lot of one-way mirrors, or two-way mirrors, I should say, watching people in the lab do tasks and things. And so it was really nerve-wracking, I will admit. I mean, it was really nerve-wracking, again, because of quotas. Wait, what do I have to do? I have to perform to get paid?
Yeah.
It's very different from a normal, typical office worker. But it was so exhilarating and so fun. I could not wait to do my first demo. And I actually sort of snuck my way into it to do my first demo. My VP at the time, she put out this message to all the pre-sales channel saying that we needed to do a demo. Someone needed to step up and do a demo for someone in Australia, which is different time zones, obviously.
Yeah.
And I don't really sleep that much. So I usually sleep like 4 or 5 hours a night. So I'm up at night. It's fine. So I was like, hey, if nobody else wants to do it, I'll go and do it. It'll be fine. And it'll be my first one. And she was like, all right, nobody else wants to do it. If you're comfortable, go for it. And it was off to the races from there. So it's been a really fun experience, but I highly recommend, as I said at the beginning, if you can work for a company in pre-sales for a product you've already used, that really makes a huge difference. They always say like our best customers make our best employees. So in pre-sales, that really is true, because having an intimacy, familiarity, and stories to tell, I'm sure we're going to get into this later, stories to tell about your experience in the industry can be really, really powerful in the sales cycle.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree a lot, because I think when you intertwine your own personal stories, like, hey, when I use this is what, or, when I use this is what happened, the outcome of that product, that's a way more powerful story than always pulling in from like third parties too. So
yeah, I mean, look at us right now. We just started this call. You were telling me a story about your dad, and then I immediately piggybacked onto it with a story about myself and how similar we were. And in pre-sales, that's a huge factor, like making a connection quickly with the prospect so that you're not just some salesperson or some techie doing some demo that like is taking me away from lunch with my coworkers that I wanted to go to at Chili's or whatever. So it really is important, the storytelling component. And if you can make it flow naturally, like, we're doing here, I mean, like a conversation, it's much better to have a conversation than a presentation. I always say that.
Absolutely.
So anyways,
Love that. So tell me a little bit. So you got that first role, then, obviously you didn't jump right into leadership, but there was a path there. So did you get into leadership? And then of course, I want to hear the story of like what led to writing the book and, how that all came along.
Well, the most important thing actually, so funny enough, I've actually never actually been in leadership. When I say leadership, I mean leadership with direct reports. Yeah. So I think everyone has a responsibility to sort of lead from the front. And there's a concept when I worked at Hertz, we were trained in Toyota Lean production system. And there's an idea of leading from the shop floor. And the best innovations, the best ideas are going to come from the people who are doing the work every day, not necessarily from somebody 16 levels removed in a boardroom.
So true.
And so the idea of, hey, if I have ideas, I'm going to share them. We have Slack here. So, putting ideas in Slack channels. Hey, this was really effective for me. This really worked. Check out this story in Chorus in the call recording. Take a look at that. What happened? And always, it's really weird that this is so effective, but just being willing to volunteer for things gets you instantly sort of like, oh, Arvi's the one who would be great to help with that. We need somebody for this. Go grab that person. And I was really fortunate that, that kind of behavior got me some relationships with our senior executives. And then, hey, Forrester was doing a wave in our industry. Hey, we need someone to do the demo for Forrester. Mike, we want Mike to do it. And so that kind of thing, just, it put me in a position of leadership without being a leader, which is actually really quite good. I wouldn't mind being a leader per se. I mean, but the idea of continuing to be able to do the job, and I think the job is so fun. Like, I would hate to become a leader of people and then not be able to go meet with customers and do things. It's really it's a kind of a cliche, but lead by example. You just sort of be the one. I forget who wrote it. It's in someone's book. Apologies to all my fellow authors out there who are probably, if you see this, you're going to be like, no, that was my book, Mike. Someone said, be the SC or SE that everybody wants to work with. And if you can do that, that is the best way to sort of lead by example and to do that. And of course, then comes things like awards, or if you get to go to a President's Club and things like that, those are the carrots that really, some are really driven by. I mean, I always joke to people that I never got an award before I came to user testing. I'd never gotten an award for anything. And, it was kind of like, burns you a little bit. You're like, I wish I got an award for something. And then since I've been at user testing, where merit is actually, that is what's measured, like your performance, your success, and things like that. So I've gotten a handful of awards here, which has been really nice. And the most coveted one that I had two that the first year, fortunately I started the week of RKO, revenue kickoff, sales kickoff, people call it. And the last day, our chief revenue officer, David Satterwhite, he was giving out these awards. And I was just watching. I was on Zoom, obviously, and I'm like, this is exciting. And I saw there was an SC of the Year award. And I thought, man, that would be an amazing goal to have. But there's no way. I'm brand new. I can't get that. But then there was an award for Rookie of the Year, like Sales Organization Rookie of the Year. And I thought, well, that is my goal now. I'm going to try to get that. And I'm going to do as much as I can so that when anybody thinks of that award, I'm at least in the conversation for that. And I ended up getting it my first year. And that let me know that, you're actually on the right track. And I made my quota the first year as well, which I was like, okay, I'm doing things the right way. And this past year, after 4 or 5 years, I finally got the solution PreSales of the Year, which was an amazing achievement. So I felt really good about that. But that's how you do it, really. Just lead by example and always volunteer to help and be a mentor to other new SCs that are coming in. And that's really all there is to it. It sounds simple, but it kind of is.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And actually, I talked about this a little bit with Chris Mabry on our last call with him. And he said a very similar thing. Is it's not that you need to do these extraordinary things to stand out necessarily. It's just going a little bit the extra mile. Like you said, maybe, the one time is taking that demo that's outside of work hours, in the middle of the night. And for you, it worked out because you don't sleep that well. But for him was somebody showing up, 2 hours early to an appointment and just having to wait so that he wouldn't miss it. It's little things really that you do on a consistent basis that really make you stand out, which is honestly not that hard in today's world. Because if nobody else is doing it and you're putting in that extra mile, then that makes you stand out. And like you said, you might not necessarily win, but just being in that conversation is what your goal is.
Yeah. I want to add one other thing to this. And this is where I get a little bit of flack too.
Yeah.
I know, okay, this is me. I'm not saying everybody should do this, but this is just what I do. I know there's things that I'm not supposed to do that a sales rep is supposed to do.
Yeah.
And If I know that I can do them better though, like I have no problem doing them, even if it's like a little bit, if it's going to help us win a deal,
Yeah.
I'll do that thing. And so that's sort of when even if it is just a little thing, or even if it's a little bit more, if it's a big thing, if
Yeah.
I've got nothing else going on and it's going to help us win the deal and help me get to President's Club, maybe, well, why wouldn't I do those things?
Why not?
So I know that a lot of people, they don't want to blur the lines between the roles and like, oh, this is what a pre-sales engineer does. This is what a sales rep does. This is what a CSM does. This is pre-sales. This is post-sales, that kind of thing. I don't mind blurring the lines and, trying to help wherever I can, as long as it's not hurting my core job, what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
So I think you hit the nail on the head with doing the little things. The little things, it's amazing how much the little things stand out. Like, just something as simple as, hey, if the sales rep isn't there or the CSM's not there, do the introductions. Like, just start the conversation, just get the ball rolling, and then welcome, whoever comes in, and all that kind of stuff. Or doing big things like, hey, I'll help with the scoping of the agreement or whatever. I can help with that if I know usage estimates and stuff a little bit better. So, it's a balancing act. So there are some things that you can do, but be aware that not everybody's going to do those things because they're not part of the role. And occasionally your boss might say, hey, maybe you should not focus on that stuff so much. But down, if you know that this is going to help close the deals, I'd rather do more than less if it's going to help me win, which puts more money in my pocket and potentially, a trip to Hawaii or wherever.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you'd rather hear your boss or your manager, or your leader say like, stop doing so much, and like, hey, you're not doing enough.
Exactly. Too much is, people get upset far less about too much than they do about too little.
Absolutely, for sure. Now, I want to dive a little bit deeper into your book. How did that, like, obviously idea first come, and then we'll dive into some like really juicy stuff in there for sure.
So it actually starts with your previous conversation, the previous question when you asked me about leadership. So I've been trying to get into more of a leadership role. At the time, I was a senior solution consultant, and I really was trying to achieve the role of principal solution consultant.
Yeah.
And one of the things that my boss at the time had said to me was, you should really try to do more speaking engagements and try to be more of an influencer, get more of your name out in the space beyond just what your role is. And I thought, okay, how do I do that? Okay, let's find some things. And fortunately, LinkedIn is amazing for networking and finding out when things are going on and connecting people like us. And I was part of PreSales Collective. Like I joined, like started following them and Jack and Matt and everybody. So I started following these guys, and I saw then seeing things like, oh, there's Demo Fest coming up, and oh, Demo Fest is doing a call for speakers. And I was following Consensus at that point because, again, leaders and thought leadership in the space. And I thought, ooh, like submit a proposal for a talk. Like what could that be? What could I do? And I was trying to think about what makes me unique and what might be something that would resonate. And I thought, all right, well, I thought I invented it, but Demotainment, the word, I was like, Demotainment, that sounds really cool. Like, that's what I do. I'm trying to be funny and try to, be engaging and, like always tell stories and self-deprecating, whatever, and try to make it lively and enjoyable, as opposed to just like Bueller.
Yeah.
You've seen that. And so I thought, all right, Demotainment, apparently it was in the Urban Dictionary for like 10 years, but no one was really using it in practice. So anyways, so I put this proposal together, and they accepted it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. Now I have to make the presentation. I have to do it. And when I did the presentation, I have this thing. I started it back when I had to do a lunch and learn at Hertz. I went to Oklahoma City from New Jersey, and I did a lunch and learn on like innovation and the history of, I was the director of innovation at the time, and not everybody knew how we did innovation. So I came up with this format for doing, I hate slideshows. I hate PowerPoint. Like I did, when I did public speaking as a course in college, it was like visual aids are meant to support the speaker, not to be read alongside the speaker. And so what we've morphed into today, unfortunately, is largely create the deck so that anybody who can't make it to the meeting is still be fine. Like they still see everything that you said. And I don't like doing that. So my slides are always just a giant picture and then a title. And then I just talk to that. So I am a huge movie guy. And of course, it goes on the theme of Demotainment, and there's a lot of movie references in my book. But I just put a picture from a movie that's like on theme. And then I don't tell, at the time, I was like, all right, I'm not going to tell anybody the names of the titles of these movies, but if you know them, put them in the chat, keep that chat active and give people something to do while they're going through, and almost like a little fun game. And then I would talk about things, and it went really, really well. And I had a lot of engagement. The person who was supporting me during my host for the session told me we had there was 125 people at our peak in the session, which is really, really great. And I got a lot of connection requests and so on. And then afterwards, I got an award for one of the highest rated speakers and one of the highest attended sessions.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this is super cool. Because obviously I like awards. I like getting awards. And I thought, well, maybe there's more of an appetite for this. I should try to do more with this. And so I wrote an article. I have the framework of it, and I have my whole transcript of my talk.
Yeah.
So I turned it into a basic article that I put on LinkedIn, and I was like, all right, here's an article. It's great. And then, I was like, all right, well, maybe I could do more with this. Maybe I could turn it into a book and start branding myself. And so Amazon makes it super easy to publish your own book through Kindle Direct Publishing.
Yeah.
And so I thought, all right, let's get to it, And since it was amazing, I already had done the foundation. The hardest part about, I think, creating a book, forgive me, anyone who's written more than one book, obviously there's a lot of hard stuff to it, but it's coming up with what's the framework? What's the outline? What's my core theme and message I'm going to try to work towards? Yeah. And I was really lucky because I'd already done it in short form. And so it was really just taking all those, each slide in my presentation or theme became a chapter, and let's blow it out. And then of course I added more afterwards as I was reviewing it. And then I was like, all right, let me get someone to look at this book before I put it out there.
Yeah.
Right? Because my wife, my kids are like, are you crazy? Writing a book? Who are you? And I didn't really tell anyone. I didn't really talk about it at work or anything, because it's like, oh, who do you think you are? Writing a book?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be like that, but it was more my unique perspective. And so I had Ron Whitson, who's the author of A Friendly Human in Pre-Sales. I saw that he had just self-published his book and everything. And I thought, well, maybe he'll read a chapter of my book and give me some feedback. And he read the whole thing. And so he gave me great feedback and thought it was a great addition. So that kind of broke down my imposter syndrome. Am I a fraud or whatever? Writing a book, who am I? There's guys like Chris White and all these guys out there that I've read their books. I have them all in a pile here. And it's how am I thinking I'm like that? And so, but Ron gave me the confidence to go, no, just put it out there, man. It's a good piece. It's a good addition to our space. And of course, as soon as you launch the book and you publish it, you go, crud. This would have been a great chapter that I could have added. But it's just good for a sequel. At the time, I knew I was having a lot of gallbladder issues, and I knew I was going to have surgery at some point, and it was probably going to be unexpected. So I didn't want to let perfect be the enemy of good enough, that is. And so I got the book out there, and I'm really happy with it. And the response, it's not going to make me rich, right? As much as I hope everyone who's watching this goes and buys a copy of the book. But it's really done a good job, like you said, about leadership and becoming a leader, elevating me in the space. Yeah, and of course, it's led to a lot of these kinds of interviews, and which are great. And I've done I spoke in person at Demo Fest in New York, which is great. And so, and now I have a lot of friends. All the other authors who I admire and look up to are now my friends. And so it's really just been a tremendous journey to get the book out there and to promote it and do this. And my 9-year-old, she jokes, she's like, yeah, Dad, Demotainment, blah, blah, blah. We get it. Because I talk about it so much. But then there's things so I don't know if you see my shirt here. I don't demo, I demotain. So Opine, pre-sales, they sent this to me. They made it and sent it to me. Which was really amazing. Yeah. And I just was like, wow, that's really an honor that they would make something for me based on my book and send it to me. So it's just been a tremendous ride, writing it, getting it done, getting over the hurdle of oh gosh. But now the one thing I'll say, and this is the same, if you have a YouTube channel, it's the same thing. So I have a YouTube channel. This is one of those things that I did at work that actually set me apart and really gave me sort of this leading from the front kind of thing. Someone asked me one day, who managed our user testing community of customers, said, hey, would you ever consider doing a 3-minute tip video once a week? Mm-hmm. And I was like, Yeah, I'd love that. That's like the first time I'll ever get to use my actual degree, like after 25 years. So I started making these videos, and then someone encouraged me to like make a YouTube channel for yourself, do a brand, like have a personal brand, and
Absolutely.
put these videos on your YouTube channel. And so I started doing that, and it was like now I have over 200 plus videos out there. But you have to be ready when you put yourself out there. Now you know this from social and everything. You're going to
Yeah.
get negative feedback, right? You're going to get negative feedback.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to the book, I got a 1-star review on the book. And the review, it really made me laugh. I laughed out loud at the review because it didn't affect me emotionally. And actually, I thought it was really good because I was getting all 4 and 5-star reviews, and I need to bring the average down a little bit to make, because
It was too good to be true.
yeah, there's a science to like those scores on Amazon.
Right, right.
But the thing that the person wrote about in the book was, and I don't know if you'll let to see this, I'll show it. But inside the book, you can see they're like, oh, the font is too big. It's too big. And I was like, yes, that's on purpose. It's not because I'm trying to pad the pages. It's because every time I read another book, I have to wear a different pair of glasses because the words are so small that it's really, and you start getting eye strain and stuff. And I
Yeah.
wanted my book to be easy to read, very simple. And that's what it is. So to get a complaint about accessibility, I was like, that's funny.
I love that. I will say though, now that you brought that up, because I'd never really thought about it, but it makes sense. Like when I'm reading books, I want to feel like I'm making progress. So like if the wording's not like too small and like too mushed in, I'm like, I want to keep scrolling through the pages. So I would prefer that. But I guess, yeah, you can see it as a personal preference of, having smaller font.
Yeah, and actually it worked out. A couple of people, I think Chris White might have said this, and Jack Cochran definitely said it, was like, oh, I read it like on a plane. Like I read the whole book on a plane ride.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, that's great. I mean, that's perfect. Like, oh, if you're looking for something to get through on a plane, you can get through it. And, it's a combination of one, I'm not trying to be like Mr. Science, like,
Right.
And so I'm using just the way I talk, like this, it's written the way that I speak. And it's also, there's a lot of like references to movies and stories in it, and that keeps it flowing. It keeps people intrigued, and it's not just. I told somebody, like Chris's book, the 6 Habits, or things like that. Like there are real frameworks, and Ron's got the 7 principles, I think, as well. But I was like, you're not going to find like the 3 C's in my book or anything like that. It's just going to be themes and stories and techniques that you can use to make this work.
All right, love that. And I think it's a great way to segue into some juicy stuff about demoing in the pre-sales world. So I'll tell you this, like I've talked to a lot of leaders lately where one of their biggest challenges that they're dealing with right now is their pre-sales engineers, or, the SEs, they're great at technical side. They know it up and down. But when it comes to connecting that with, like you said, with storytelling, they're not great at communicating or just having a conversation, or make it feel like a conversation. Although, let's say you're following a script or a framework, whatever that looks like. So tell me some tips. It's going to be a twofold question, but tell me like some tips on the leadership side. What do you think they can do to help their ICs, better at leading them or training them, to do better at demoing through storytelling?
I think that role playing is the most critical thing. And I don't know, again, I don't know how leaders implement it, but I think we need to do more role playing where there's things like you have an opportunity to tell some of these stories. And stories are great when they're personal, but it's okay to have a bank of stories that are, we have customer stories where we tell our successes and things. And it's okay. I don't know if you ever saw Good Will Hunting, the movie Good Will Hunting, but there's a bit in the movie where he's telling, Matt Damon is telling Robin Williams a story during one of their therapy sessions. And Robin Williams knows it's obviously not true, but he tells it as if, Matt Damon tells it as if it happened to him, a story about being on a plane. And it's a joke. It's a joke that he tells. And he goes, oh, have you ever been on a plane? And he goes, well, no, but it works better if I tell it in the first person. And so like things like that, things like company stories, telling them using adjectives like we, our customer had this problem. It's okay to do that because you're talking about the history of the company and figuring out where to work these stories in. I also think that the role playing, you should be doing things like, you've got great sunlight. You know, that's you look like you have a great office space right there. Like, just can you improv an intro and find some kind of connection? Like, oh my gosh, I see you got a whiteboard behind you there, and you know, I'm sure your 3-year-old loves that you have that whiteboard. My office, I had a full, because I was in innovation, a full wall of whiteboard, and people would come in and they would just see drawings on it. I didn't actually use it for work because anytime my kids came in, they would draw on it, and I didn't want to erase it. And so, like, things like that, can you make a connection to something that's not work related to get the prospect on your side? So doing those kind of things lead to stories that are not even relevant to the task at hand, but it makes a connection with you that is sometimes it's like priceless. Like to have a connection with somebody right away. There was a guy once got on a call, and I saw in the background. Now with you and I right now, we're only seeing sort of like a half or a third, but I saw in the background, it was his bedroom office, his bedroom, and I saw on his nightstand that he looked like he had a little stone elephant, and I was like, "Is that?" I'm like, "Do you have a stone elephant, like a sculpture on your desk back there on your side table?" And he's like, "Yeah," and he goes, "Yeah, I do." And he talked to me, I go, "So I ran over here, and you can't see it obviously, but over there, I mentioned I was an exchange student, so I have all Zimbabwean art like on my shelves over here, and so I brought a soapstone elephant over, and I was like, look at this, I got one too." And so we started talking about our love of elephants and stuff, and you're just making this connection. And it's like, oh, okay, you know, Mike's a friend. He's like a regular guy. Like, he's not just some robotic salesperson. And then when it gets into the product, teaching with stories is super important. I think that's why in every movie that you ever see, the great teacher is always telling stories, and the boring teacher is always teaching like to the blackboard kind of thing. And so having stories that you can tell makes things resonate, because people, they remember characters and character arcs and the problems. Like when you say, oh, the 3 challenges that you would have if you don't have customer research, is like, okay, well, that sounds great. But if you go, oh yeah, so tell me if this ever happened to you. I was in this situation where I had no customer feedback on my solution whatsoever. And we go to do research when we've developed the whole product, because that's the only thing that's worth spending money to test. And executives are sitting right there, and you're watching someone use it going like, dear God, please let this go okay, because I have to launch this in 2 weeks. Now people are remembering that because it's creating an emotional response to them.
The visual storytelling.
And they're like, oh yeah, that happened to me too, and I remember that, and that story anchors to this product. Okay. So doing the role playing, having a bank of stories for people, because not everybody who comes in has used the product before. So, I mean, we are in an industry that is professional as well. So, oh, I did pre-sales here. Now I'm going to go to Salesforce. Now I'm going to go to ServiceNow. Now I'll go to, somewhere else. And, moving from place to place, it can be difficult to make those jumps until you generate your own stories that you can tell. And so, having those stories and getting people to understand stories and practicing the stories. I was talking to someone on my team yesterday about, there's a movie, Reservoir Dogs. It was Quentin Tarantino's first movie. And it's about an undercover cop trying to get into this gang of thieves that are about to do a heist. And a lot of the movie focuses on him rehearsing the story that is going to make him seem authentic and like he's really a thief and a criminal. And so, the guy tells him, you have to practice everything about the story. Practice. So you know everything. And that's what role playing is all about. It's about practicing all these things so that you fully understand the story, what happened, what were the pitfalls, what was the outcomes, what was the value, how'd you feel, like how did the customer feel, all that stuff. So practice makes perfect, as they say, and role playing is a great way to do that.
I love that. I'll just add, because I agree with everything you said. I'll just add one little line when you were talking about like the visual storytelling. Even if somebody doesn't relate to what you went through, the way that you walk them through, it'll still make them feel something and say, oh, you know what? Mike, I haven't been through that, but wow, that sounds pretty, frustrating, pretty stressful. Like, yeah, I can see how that can be this way. So exactly. I really love that, visual sort of like walking them through what you went through versus just saying, yeah, I was frustrated at this and this didn't happen. And it's like, oh, okay. And then, move on.
Yeah, 100%.
So I love that.
That's why we love movies, right? None of us have been John Wick, but like when someone hurts his dog, you're like, you empathize and you understand everything. And this is like, yeah, what's the solution now? We need to fix this.
Absolutely. Now I want to, you briefly mentioned this. Like you said, not everybody will come in with like a bank of stories. If I'm like a brand new sales engineer getting into this, or maybe I want to even get better at storytelling, how would you even start? Like, where would you point me to say, like, start doing this, or this is where I started? Just give us some tips.
Well, the first tip is use your product. As much as you can use your product, use it.
Mm,
When I started here, I had a really great 30, 60, 90 program that I'd never really seen before. Our onboarding team was amazing at user testing. And I just started going through all of it. And it was like, oh, practice this. Go watch this video of someone doing a demo of the product. So you can see that. You can look at chorus call recordings, things like that, to see
yeah.
how people do it. So using the product is key. But also as a company, the companies should, we use HighSpot as a tool here, and we have all our customer stories and sales information and stuff, and it's marketing built at all this great information to make sure that anybody who comes in has access to stories, customer stories. We actually call it customer gold, and it's like this great stuff. And then our enablement team, they actually make use of that, and they bring in people like me, potentially, like, oh, we're going to do a session on objection handling. And what are some stories that you can do for objection handling? And what are some real world use cases? And so talk to people, have a mentor at the company. Don't try to do it on your own, except using the product, and then ask questions.
Right.
Ask questions. For me, this woman, her name was Megan Canizaro. She was an SC when I started here, and she was the person that I went to for everything. like, oh, I've used the product, but if I can't figure something out, Megan definitely knows, because she was in the same boat as me, where she'd been a customer as well that came on board as a employee. And so going to people and trying to figure things out, learning all the little nuances, is super important. But the other thing too, when it comes to storytelling and objection, I just want to throw this one little thing in that's not related. Never be afraid to say that you don't know the answer to something. There's nothing worse than someone who is obviously being fake or BSing their way through something. There's a great Freakonomics Radio is a great podcast, great book too, but Freakonomics Radio does a whole episode on I don't know and the power of I don't know. And, you seem honest when you say, look, actually, I don't know. I don't answer. One of my favorite things to say, and I only say it when it's true, is, you know what? You are the first person to ever ask me that question. And I honestly don't know. So you get a gold star for asking me something totally unique. It's going to make my day exciting. And then I'm going to find the answer. I'm going to send it to you. And so you turn this sort of negative of like, I didn't know the answer and I'm dejected or whatever because I didn't know, into like an opportunity to make the customer feel good. Like, wow, they're really, and then I'll say like, I love where your head's at, because it means you're really thinking about how you're going to use this product. And so then they're like, yeah, I am really smart, aren't I? And it's like, it's a really great way to turn little negatives into positives. And that's something, of course, that comes with practice. But the idea of not trying to fake your way through it with BS, because if you get detected, they're not going to trust anything you say, and your whole demo, everything's thrown out. So, just be honest, say, I don't know, and go learn, go figure out what it was.
Yeah, I love that. And I couldn't agree more with that too, is you'd rather just be honest, say, I don't know, go figure it out the answer. And I love that approach. I might steal that from now on, of like, hey, you're the first person. Now you make them feel good about themselves as well, even if they're not, or, whatever the case is. So love that.
Well, and it's really important too. One of the things you always want your prospects or customers to do is to visualize themselves using your product more. And so if they show any indication that they're thinking about their team or themselves using your product, go with that. Like, go with it and explore it. And a lot of times taking breaks in demos is really important. You don't do like 45-minute talk. You have to go, all right, now that was really, that's the end of sort of this little bit here. RV, like, what did you think about that? Like, could you see your team using that? Like, what would be the first thing you would do if you had access to that? Now, all of a sudden, you're creating the mental image of them. They're thinking about, well, if I had this, I would do this. And then they start thinking about, yeah, I want to do that. And I want this thing. So go with it. If that visualization and storytelling, if you can get them to start making their own stories and visuals about them using your product, that's super important and critical.
Yeah, absolutely. Let them sell themselves in a way.
Exactly. Exactly.
Love that. What are some like key KPIs or metrics maybe that you measure or kind of been through, in your journey, that you realize, what, I've measured all of these, but really only these 1 or 2 or 3 are the ones that really drive the results, or that maybe have been the most important to you? Because I was going to say, we hear KPIs, track them, but it's like, okay, what do I do with it even if we're tracking them, right? So what is actually moving the needle?
I will say this is a tough one actually, because
Mhm.
you know, you're dealing in a sales cycle. There's key things that are already there and established. Did it advance to the next stage? Right? Did you advance to the next stage? How many demos led to a proposal? And so that is really the key. The key, and then did it
Yeah.
close? And so again, I'm going to go back to my old CRO and mentor,
Yeah.
Dave Satterwhite. He had told me, and I posted this on LinkedIn a couple of days ago. He had told me once, it's the SC's job or the SC's job to win the deal, and then it's the sales rep's job to close the deal. So it's like demos win deals, and then sales reps close deals, and they get it done. And of course, business development sources deals. And I'm not forgetting about you, CSMs. CSMs, I think, are responsible for maintaining the deals, renewals, growth, all the stuff. You're there too. But if my job is to win the deal, is to win the deal, then how many of my deals are going to a proposal? And so that's really I would like to say that's my measure, but even I don't care about that, because I just care about closing deals. I just want it to close. And if it doesn't close, I want to know why, and I want to know what happened.
Yeah.
From a metric standpoint, I mean, that I hate to simplify it down to like the core thing, but like it doesn't really matter. It does matter if you do a great demo and then the sales rep blows it up like that.
Yeah.
Of course, it's good to know, because you want to be able to tell your boss, like, hey, it wasn't me. We had it. And then this is where we were. But yeah, for me personally, closing deals is the most important thing. And that's how I measure myself. I mean, sadly, that's just it.
Absolutely. Is there any like things that you personally implement, throughout your experience that you've been through, like demos and, you're like, it didn't, this specific demo that you did not translate into a win. Do you do anything of like maybe reviewing the calls, or how do you get better? Like, how do you evaluate yourself, or through the leaders as well, like to get yourself better?
I think getting better is, I've done it a couple of ways. I think that leadership or a third party analyzing your call and giving you feedback is probably always the best.
Yeah.
We see ourselves like differently, like we're so awesome, aren't we? Aren't we amazing? And like, this customer, they just didn't understand.
Yeah.
They were so dumb, like that's what our brain says. And so having a third party, be it a peer or a leader, go over it. I actually had volunteered at one point. I told my a previous boss, I said, hey, if at any point during a team call you want to take something of mine and show it as an example of what to do or what not to do, I'm fine with that. And we can have a discussion, and maybe we can all get better. We can all start sharing elements of calls and things. But one other thing that I had done, and let's talk about AI, right? Let's talk about the thing on everybody's tongue these days, is I took the transcript from a demo that I did and I put it into ChatGPT. And I said, hey, here was the discovery call transcript, and here was my demo transcript. Was there anything that I didn't go deep enough on, or an opportunity for me to ask the customer for feedback where I didn't? Like, where maybe should I have stopped? And that's a good way, without really imposing on anyone else's time, to get some feedback from our objective soon to be overlord, like AI, and have it tell you, and it literally would tell me, actually, this was a really good opportunity. You could have paused here and dug on here, or they gave feedback here that you should have responded to this way and dug in more and explored it more, as opposed to just moving on in your demo. The other thing that I think can help is, it's not always about just the way the words we use, like, and our energy. Like, a lot of my book is about energy and trying to bring a persona to it. But a lot of it can be things like sequencing. Like, what order did you show things? Like, a lot of people typically in a demo, they show, okay, we're going to talk about what we're going to do, what our product can do. Then I'm going to show you how to build a thing. And then I'm going to show you the output of the thing that we built. And that is a linear progression seems normal, but in the end, it's kind of the opposite of what would be most effective. And so you want to see show me all the value I'm going to get. Show me all the benefits I'm going to get right up front. And then show me how easy it is to get them. So with user testing, we have a template gallery that makes it super easy, even for anybody who's never done research before, to just like do a couple of blanks in like a Mad Lib, and then it generates research for you. And so I show all this stuff that I generated with that. And I go, all this stuff, great. It's personalized demo and everything. And I go, oh yeah. And if you want to see how to do this, it took me less than 5 minutes to build this out. and I just picked this template, filled in the website, the task I wanted, and I named it, and that was it. And I launched it. And so they're like, oh, wow, all that greatness that I've already like got in my soul that I want that. And then you just show me how I could do it in like less than 2 minutes. Like, that's awesome. I want to do that. So getting third party feedback is always, I think, the best bet. But using AI is terrific. And make sure if you're using AI, or let me caveat this, don't go posting customer calls into a public AI. Like, don't go on like ChatGPT or Copilot or Gemini or Grok or anything and just start posting in data. At user testing, we have an internal, AI that's locked down that we can use. So a lot of companies have that. So if you have that and you want to analyze calls and things, do it that way. Chorus will do AI analysis for you as well. But be careful with anything that you post into AI. Make sure that you're not breaking any confidentiality rules or anything. Do that. So that was the message. What do they call that? A public service announcement.
Disclaimer.
For any CISOs that are watching that are freaking out that I said use AI for something. Just be careful.
I love that. I will add this. So with ChatGPT or any of the other ones, that have the same capability, you can also, like, if you have a framework that you follow, you can obviously plug it in there. You can give it a persona and say, hey, I'm meeting with, obviously you don't have to use real names, et cetera, to protect all the confidentiality, but you can say, this could be their objections. This is what their challenges are. And I don't know if you've tried it before, but if you do the voice type of AI or on chat, it will literally role play with you back and forth. And then at the end, you can ask it, okay, where did I miss? Where's my room for improvement? And then you know exactly what you missed on the call with a similar prospect that you may be getting on the call to begin with. And you can fix those before even getting on the call. So
I haven't used the voice too much because when I first tried it, it was like really slow to respond. And it just felt unnatural. So I just always use text, which is even longer. So go figure why I'm more comfortable doing that. Just my brain is like happier with it. But that is a great suggestion.
Yeah. And you can give it you can make it a woman, a man, like whatever to make the prospect.
And you can actually tell it too, be more critical, be less critical, be more supportive, be whatever. But I will tell you that this was one of the funnest things that I did with AI when it came to my book, actually. So when I had the book done and everything, and I was like really happy with it, and I wanted to I was trying to get Ron to read it and everything. I thought, well, let me have some fun here. Let me upload my book into ChatGPT and tell it. And I specifically said this. I said, hey, imagine that my book was on Amazon now, and I want you to write a 1-star review for my book. Like, tell me everything that's wrong with it.
Yeah.
And so it wrote this Amazon review, and I was like, all right, that actually has weight. That's merit. All right, let me go create. And I wrote a new chapter. It was funny because I wrote a new chapter, and then I told Ron that I'd written this new chapter, and he's like, yeah, but you have to buy it if you want to get that chapter now. And he's like, come on now, really? And I sent it to him. But it was really good. And I actually told ChatGPT as well. I was like, I took this advice, but then I ignored that one because I'm not writing this book for everybody. It's a niche audience, so I'm not worried about that complaint. And if so be it.
Right.
It was really good to get a critical, just like instant, like crap on it. Like, tell me how bad it is. And then it gave me some ideas to improve it. And but also you got to like have conviction and say like, yeah, I don't care about that. Like what you said, this is mine. This is what I want to do. So it was really good for that as well. So
I love that. Obviously I've taken up too much of your time already, so I'm going
to
one last question here. Well, maybe twofold. We'll see. But how, I know obviously you've done the book, and again, you've realized that personal branding is huge nowadays. Now, if somebody wants to go out there, they're a sales engineer, maybe they're just getting started, they might not be ready to even publish a book, or maybe they even want to do that in the future. Is there any tips you would give them on like, what benefits has that brought to you in terms of like personal branding? And what would you recommend that maybe 2 or 3 tips, like, hey, you don't have to do a book, but like do 1, 2, 3 to stand out?
You definitely don't have to write a book, but I'll start with the first bit. In terms of personal branding, it's been huge. In terms of, we talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but elevating me in the space beyond just my job at my company has been tremendous. I mean, I'm talking to you right now, right? So this is like a big win. People, they look to you as a leader, like when you've written something, and it also has cemented my style, like my thing. So Demotainment is my thing. My normal t-shirt that I would wear, it just says Demotainer. And so, I have that shirt. And it's great. And if I was to go to an event and I'm wearing a Demotainer shirt, it's like, oh, like, what's that? Like, what is that? Like, it gives you a talk track. But yeah, I get to meet a lot more people, and I've met all the authors and people that are like the leaders in the space. If I have a question, I can just ask them. I mean, anybody can, believe it or not. If you have a question for Chris White, just ask him on LinkedIn. He'll answer it. It's fine. They're all very, very approachable. And so, yeah, I won't give out Ron's cell number, but he'll answer you too. And so that's been really tremendous. And I've gotten more speaking engagements, and I've just had a lot of fun with it. And even in my own company, my leadership, my president of field ops, and everything, they recognize I've written this book, and it's, I'm really doing something. For anyone else, I'll give the advice that I really had to use when I got laid off from a job after over 20 years back in 2019. And I just didn't know what to do with myself. I was trying to get a job, but I hadn't applied for a job in 20 years, and the world had completely changed, social media and everything. And I just started writing on LinkedIn. I just started doing posts. And, that really is a way to build your brand very, very, very quietly. And occasionally then you start to blow up. And, I've made connections through these, like, we just hired someone at my company that I met through LinkedIn and doing DemoFest. We spoke together at DemoFest. And so, like, people will reach out. You can help people with jobs and things. So it's not all for selfish gains. You have the opportunity to be more helpful. I truly believe that, and when I was unemployed in 2019, I started working for a startup as a result of this philosophy. I'm about to say, just be generous with what you know. You might not know a lot, but even the little that you know or experience that you had, like, that can be as powerful as any book to somebody. If they see one post and they're like, man, that actually really inspired me, like, to do this or that or the other thing. All these one-off posts that I've seen have led to eventually me writing a book and writing articles and doing speaking and so on. So it all starts there. And you don't need permission from anybody to do anything.
Right.
So just try to be helpful and be generous with yourself and your skills. And there's another great book called Range that's out there. It's not about pre-sales. It's about the way that bringing outside skill sets to bear in an industry actually can be a huge advantage. So, like, a farmer who goes to work in a science lab, or a potential person who wanted to be like an actor and who was in e-commerce going to work for an experienced research company as a pre-sales person. So all these things, like, don't think because you don't have that exact experience that you don't have any experience. You do have experience that you could bring to bear in a unique way that no one else can do. And so figure out how to leverage that. I've told my own kids that exact thing. Like, my son who just graduated college, I'm like, you're getting a degree here, but what else do you bring? What other skills do you bring to that make you unique? And so that's really important. And so no matter what your background is, when you go into pre-sales, figure out a way to make that background work for you. And always, it's always relevant. It's always relevant.
I love that. I'm going to dive into one more thing here. When you said on LinkedIn about posting and your experience, which you already mentioned, that is, no matter where you've worked at, you've had good, bad experiences, something you messed up on, something you did really well. Honestly, just putting those as your posts on LinkedIn, it's that visual storytelling in writing in short format, right? You don't have to write a book, but you can write those in short formats. Somebody that's, like, looking at the hiring aspect of things, like me going into a profile and looking, if I see that Mike was, quote unquote, vulnerable, said, hey, I messed up on this deal, but this is what I learned. Or, hey, here's how I secured this, whatever 7-figure logo, in my previous job, etc. Those are all things that, even though your resume might not be great, your profile might not be amazing on LinkedIn, is all the things that somebody like me, like yourself, when you're hiring, etc., you can look at and say, you know what, he's bringing some good experience. I need to at least have a conversation with him. So.
And that brings us full circle to where we started.
Exactly.
These are stories that resonate. And your stories, even if you left one company, there's a bunch of other companies in that space that it's like they want to see those stories as well. When I left Reckitt, I was an expert, one of probably maybe the leading experts in auto replenishment solutions. I did a 5-article series on Medium about auto replenishment solutions and all the vendors that were out there. And I got a bunch of following for that. Now, then I moved out of that space completely, but I still have all my friends in CPG. And I still post things about the CPG world from time to time because there's overlap. How many people have ever been in a supermarket and seen someone taking notes with a clipboard in an aisle? They are doing research. That's what we do at User Testing, but it's in a different way. So it's really funny. But yeah, bringing it all the way back to storytelling. And I just want to I want to acknowledge this comment in the chat that I didn't want to tell anyone the key to successfully writing a book. Like, don't tell anyone what you're doing. This is like I found out someone was having a baby yesterday, and I was like, don't ever tell anyone the name that you're thinking of. Don't tell anyone until the baby's born what the name is, because people will crap on it. They'll tell you some bad experience, whatever. When it's done, then tell everybody.
I agree. Yeah, some things you got to keep close to you, and then once they're done in reality, then you can share. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. And great tip on like somebody coming, because actually I wanted to mention that we have, or at least I have, conversations with a lot of people that are in different industries and they want to come into pre-sales, and they're like, yeah, but I was an accountant and I'm not in pre-sales. Like, what do I do? I love what you said. Like, you can bring that perspective into this. Maybe you might not start with like I don't know, like a construction type industry vertical, but you can start into like an accounting software. So now you have that background. And I agree. There's so many things that you do in that industry that can bring a full-on fresh perspective that maybe nobody thought about because you were just kind of like focused and you're used to the same thing over and over again. So
exactly.
Yeah, I don't want anybody like listening to this or looking at this later and saying like, yeah, but I'm not from that industry. Use that and see what is it that I can bring from that into this, whatever the role you're applying for, et cetera. So
yeah.
And I think you might agree with me on this, but at the end of the day, like as a hiring manager or looking into hiring somebody, you want to see hunger from them. So if you see that somebody's like really trying and, they might not have the best experience, and Chris Mabry said this too, he didn't hire somebody with the best experience. He hired somebody that showed him that wanted it the most.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, there's always, I would always say back when I was hiring back at Hertz, I would say, look, I can train for the job, but like, and this is the Zappos philosophy. Like when Tony Hsieh, RIP, when he was forming Zappos, the reason that he offers people a bonus to quit after they do the training is because they want the right people. They can train the skills, but if it's the wrong people, it's never going to work. And so, hiring for like the enthusiasm, the eagerness, the go-getter, like is this person going to come in and try to make a difference and, be great for customers versus like, yes, they seem to understand how to do research or they understand accounting or they understand
the boxes.
Would I ever want this person out at a dinner with a customer? Like, no, probably not. Like that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot in pre-sales. You end up at a lot of dinners with customers.
Absolutely.
So you better be good.
Absolutely. And Mike, you've said so much. Thank you so much for all your knowledge that you shared. I will definitely need your Amazon link after this. So I can put it when we're posting this as well for after, so people can get it easily to grab it easily. Is there any last minute advice you want to say to anybody in pre-sales besides buying your book? Because I highly, highly recommend that. That you just want to leave with as like a last word.
I just think that there's so much in the book. We didn't even talk. You gave me a great list of questions ahead. We just went where we went.
Yeah, we did not.
I knew that was going to happen. I just think that don't be afraid to be fun. Like, try to be fun, try to be personable. You want to enjoy your demo. The customer wants to enjoy it.
Sorry, every freaking Wednesday at 12 p.m. EST, we have a test alarm on tornadoes.
Oh, okay.
So we might hear this one more time.
No, that's fine. It's an alert. It means go buy the book. No, I will say this. Yeah, there's just so much in it about bringing the energy. For anyone, I'm going to say this, for anyone who thinks that you'd be like a fraud or you can't do what I'm talking about doing, there's a whole section in the book about becoming the presenter, playing the role of the presenter. You don't have to be super high energy to be high energy when you're on stage, right? Think about like you're doing a play. I'll leave it there with that. If anyone does order the book, I've got these great book plate stickers. I'll sign it. I'll, message me. I'll send it to you. You can have a signed, basically it's kind of like having a signed copy, but there's so much in it. And I'm so thrilled that I've got to meet you, Arnie, and that, we get to have this great chat. And that you're not actually having a hurricane right now, or tornado or something. That's really good.
Thank you.
But yeah, it has been a whirlwind. This has been a whirlwind of a conversation, though, right? So
Absolutely.
That's called improv, ladies and gentlemen. That's how you tie it together and try to make it fun. But yeah, it's been really great, and I can't thank you enough. If you ever want to do this again, I'm happy to do it. We can talk about anything. This was great. You were a tremendous
I
host.
love that. Thank you so much, Mike. We'll upload this on YouTube as well, and we'll have this out for you guys. So if you didn't catch it today, obviously you'll catch the recording. And again, thank you. It was awesome. I think people are gonna have a blast looking at this and just probably take a ton of notes, honestly, because there was so much that we shared. So and buy that, absolutely. Actually, don't take notes, just buy the book.
That's right, and highlight. There's plenty of space. Apparently, there's too much space in there. So go ahead, make notes. Thanks again. Thanks everybody who attended, and I really appreciate you guys.
Thank
See you on
you.
LinkedIn. Yeah.